Okay, so we're continuing with our reading of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta, and yesterday we heard these very beautiful verses glorifying the Vaishnava, glorifying the devotees. So we will continue from there. Dasa Vrindavanam Bande Krishna Dasa Prabhum Tata Chanavatar Chaitanya Lila Vishtar Karino Do Nityananda Parabja Karunarena Bhushito Vyakta Burachincho Vavande Vyasadupino Shri Guru Gaur Gandharva Govindas Chaganai Saha Jayanti Chacha Jayanti Chacha. I forgot that last line there. Okay. Se Bhaktagan Hoy Dvivida Prakar Padishadaganek Sadaganar. Such pure devotees are of two types, personal associates, padishats, and neophytes devotees, sadhakas. Ishwaravatar etim prakar amshavatar gunavatar Shaktaveshavatar chitya e mata amshavatar purush matsyadika jata. There are three categories of incarnations of Godhead: partial incarnations, qualitative incarnations, and empowered incarnations. The Purushas and Matsya are examples of partial incarnations. Brahma Vishnu Shiva Tin Gunavatare Gani Shaktavesha Sanakadi Pitu Vyasa Muni. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are qualitative incarnations. Empowered incarnations are those like the Kumaras, King Prithu, and Mahamuni Vyas. Dvirupe hoy Bhagavane Prakash, Eketo Prakash hoy Adeto Vilas. The personality of Godhead exhibits himself in two kinds of forms, Prakash and Vilas. Ekai Vigraha Jadi hoy Bahudup, Akareto Bedanahi Ekai Swarup, Mahishi Vivahe Jaiche Koilodhas, Ihake Kohiye Krishna Mukya Prakash. When the personality of Godhead expands himself in many forms, all non-different in their features, as Lord Krishna did when he married 16,000 queens and when he performed his rasa dance, such forms of the Lord are called manifested forms. Chitram bataita dekena vapusha yuga padpritak griheshu dvashta sahasram striya eka udavahat. It is astounding that Lord Sri Krishna, who is one without a second, expanded himself in 16,000 similar forms to marry 16,000 queens in their respective homes. Quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam. Rahotsava sampravito gopi mandala mandita yogeshwarena krishnena tasam madhye dvayo dvayo. When Lord Krishna, surrounded by groups of cowherd girls, began the festivities of the rasa dance, the Lord of all mystic powers placed himself between each two girls. Pravishtena grihitanam kante swanikatam striya yam manyadanna bastavad vimana shata sankulam divokadam sadaranam Atyotsukya bitatmanam tato dundu bayone dor nipetu pushparishtaya. When the cowherd girls and Krishna thus joined together, each girl thought that Krishna was dearly embracing her alone. To behold this wonderful pastime of the Lord, the denizens of heaven and their wives, all very eager to see the dance, flew in the sky in their hundreds of airplanes. They showered flowers and beat sweetly on drums. Anekatra prakatata lupasya ikasya yaikada sarvata tatsarupaiva sa prakasha itiryate If numerous forms, all equal in their features, are displayed simultaneously, such forms are called Prakash Vigrahas of the Lord. Ekai Vigraha kintu akare hoyan, anek prakasha hoy vilastarnam. But when the numerous forms are different from one another, they are called Vilas Vigrahas. Sarupam anyakadam yad tasya bhati vilasata prayanatma samam shaktya savilaso nigadyate. When the Lord displays numerous forms with different features by his inconceivable potency, such forms are called Vilas Vigrahas. Jaiche Baladeva Paravame Narayan Jaiche Vasudeva Pradyumnari Sankarshan. Examples of such Vilas Vigrahas are Baladev, Narayan in Vaikuntha Dham, and the Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Ishware Shakti hoy etim prakar, eka Lakshmi Ganpure Mahishi Ganar, Bhaje Gopi Ganar Sabate Pradhan, Bhajendra Nandana Jate Swayam Bhagavan. The energies, or Shaktis, consorts of the Supreme Lord, are of three kinds: the Lakshmis in Vaikuntha, the queens in Dwarka, and the gopis in Vrindavan. The gopis are the best of all, for they have the privilege of serving Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord, the son of the king of Braja. Swayam Rup Krishna Kai Vyuha Tarsam Bhakta Sahite Hoy Tahavaran. The personal associates of the primeval Lord, Sri Krishna, are his devotees, who are identical with him. He is complete with his entourage of devotees. Vaktadi krame koilo sabar vandam, e sabar vandan sarva shubhe karan. Now I have worshipped all the various levels of devotees. Worshipping them is the source of all good fortune. Purport. To offer prayers to the Lord, one should first offer prayers to his devotees and associates. Pratam shloke kohi samanya mangalacharan, dvitya shloke te kori visheshvandan. In the first verse, I've invoked a general benediction, but in the second, I have prayed to the Lord in a particular form. And now Kaviraj Goswami is going back, referring to the beginning verses of the chapter. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gauradaye Pushpavanto Chicho Shando Tamodudo. Very beautiful verse. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gauradaye Pushpavanto Chicho Shando Tamonudo. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Bhaje Devi Hare Purve Krishna Balaram Koti Soya Chandrajini Dohani Jadam Se Dui Jagatere Hoya Sadoy Goda Deshe Purva Shaile Korila Hudoy. Shri Krishna and Balaram, the personalities of Godhead, who formerly appeared in Vrindavan and were millions of times more effulgent than the sun and moon, have arisen over the eastern horizon of Gauda Desh, West Bengal, being compassionate for the fallen state of the world. So although in the verse it is stated, although in the verse this comparison is given Mahaprabhu Nityananda to the sun and the moon, they are actually millions of times more effulgent. So our gurus, the Vaishnavas, they're often giving analogy, right, to help us understand. And actually, this is one of the approved methods of coming to the truth. In this is related to epistemology, right? So in the Vedas, there are different types of methods which are discussed, by which one can come to verify truth, right? And some of them are approved by our Gaudiya acharyas, and others are not approved. And so, like, for example, one that, and Jiva Goswami discusses this point. And so, for example, one of the methods which is not approved is historical precedents. Like people will say, oh, but it's always been done like this, right? So it must be the right way. Like, oh, we're doing it like this because it's always been done like this. That's not a reliable means of establishing what is true, right? What is correct. Just because it's always been done, or just because so and so did it, does not mean it's right. That's one example. But then the three that have been particularly approved by our gurus is let me see now. Well, the most important is the shabda, the divine revelation, what is coming through the sadhu, through the shastra, through the scripture. That is the primary, divine revelation, what is descending from above. This is the primary. And then the other two, another was logic. Through logic we can come to some conclusion. And then also, so for example, we see this sophisticated, complex world that we live in, and we must come to the conclusion there is some conscious source behind that. There is some conscious origin. There is some logical, that we can come to that conclusion through some logical deduction. And then a third method, and what is also accepted to some degree, is our own experience, our own. And so, because our own experience of this world can help us to some degree, And so our gurus, they sometimes use examples to indicate, examples pertaining to our experience of this world to help us understand something of the nature of that higher plane, So, for example, I'm trying to remember exactly the word. It's not exactly experience. Another word is used, but I can't remember. I have to check that. But so, for example, like that Shata Chandra Nyaya is used often. The logic of seeing the moon through the branches of a tree, that sometimes some indication, some hint is given about the nature of the divine reality. We can't actually completely understand that through these limited examples, but we get some idea. So like the logic of the moon through the branches of a tree is, you cannot see the moon in the sky, so your friend says, oh, look at this tree branch. If you follow this branch, you will see the moon is there, right, at the tip of that branch, right? Actually, the relationship between the tree branch and the moon is very, very small, right? But the branch is helping you to find the moon within the sky, right? So the relationship is very remote, but it's helping you find a reference point. So in the same way, our gurus, they are giving us, they are trying to help us understand the nature of that divine world, to awaken our attraction, to increase our faith. And so they do that in different ways, but ultimately these are limited, There's one verse of Rupa Goswami where he's like trying to describe the glory of the beauty of Krishna, and then he's apologizing, saying, oh, please forgive me, because actually, so millions of lotus flowers, all of their beauty, they cannot come close to your beauty, This is a very faulty analogy. I'm giving some idea here, So also Kaviraj Goswami, he's giving some comparison, because from where we are, the sun and the moon, they are very effulgent, very great, but they are millions of times more beautiful, more effulgent. Shri Krishna Chait, you're going to say something?
We're way off, because to even compare them to the sun and the moon is, we can barely comprehend that.
Right.
And then it's a million times more.
Right.
So our position
Right,
is,
right. Yeah, we can't even conceive of that. Yeah.
With our humility.
Right.
In the presence of something great, some greatness, then automatically feel humble.
Right, right. Yes, we are so limited in our capacity to comprehend. That's why, we can only surrender to that, right? We cannot capture that within our brain, our mental faculties. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jahar Prakasha Sarva Jagatananda. The appearance of Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda has surcharged the world with happiness. Soya Chanja Hare Jaiche Sabandakar Vastu Prakashiya Kore Dharme Prachar Hemata Duibai Jivera Gyan Tamonasha Kori Koilo Tattva Vastudan. As the sun and moon drive away darkness by their appearance and reveal the nature of everything, these two brothers dissipate the darkness of the living beings' ignorance, and enlighten them with knowledge of the absolute truth. Agyantamenam kohye kaitav dharmarta kama moksha vancha disab. Wow, look at that. This is the verse that we were mentioning yesterday. Wanted to discuss more, now it's coming up here in the next verse. The darkness of ignorance is called kaitava, the way of cheating, which begins with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. So why are Nityananda Mahaprabhu compared to the sun and the moon? Because they illuminate and drive away, they dissipate the darkness of ignorance within our hearts. What is that ignorance? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So it's quite a radical statement here. What's generally considered to be worshipable, within or not always necessarily worshipable, but respected and strived for, what is set as the goal, what is acknowledged as the goal, these four things, that is being described as the darkness of ignorance by Kaviraj Goswami, is ignorant as cheating, kaitava. These are all cheating. It's very, very radical. These things are celebrated and idealized. That was the word I wanted. Idealized, generally in the Vedic context. But Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta, they are dismissing these things in a strong way. And now we have second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which we were touching upon yesterday. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmat saranam satam vedyam vastavam acha vastu shivadam tap chayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Pader Ishvara Sadyo Hridya Vadudyate Chakutibi Shushushubis Tatkana. So this was the word I was referring to yesterday. Shushushubis is difficult to pronounce. Shushushubis Tatkanat, which here is translated as, desiring to hear. But it also means a type of cultivation. Yeah, in the full translation, Srila Swami Maharaj puts submissive, hearing in a submissive attitude of service. Those willing to hear the message of the scripture in a submissive attitude of service can at once capture the Supreme Lord in their hearts. And I'll read this full translation. The great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled by Maha Muni Vyasadeva from 4 original verses, describes the most elevated and kind-hearted devotees and completely rejects the cheating ways of materially motivated religiosity. I mean, you can also, Sanskrit, it can be rendered in different ways. But, saying here that it describes the most elevated, kind-hearted devotees, but, also what is indicated here is that such persons will be able to appreciate this message given in Bhagavatam. Nirmatsar, literally nirmatsar, it's non-envious. Because this is our fundamental disease, right? That we are envious, that we need to be in the center. We want to take others out of the center, beginning with Krishna. So only once we can remove that prejudice, that self-centered prejudice from our hearts, from our vision, will we be able to see things and feel things as they truly are. So this book, which is rejecting all types of kaitava dharma, cheating religion, it is for such pure-hearted, non-envious souls. It propounds the highest principle of eternal religion. And literally, there's this very nice expression here. Vastava vastu, vedyam vastu macha vastu. Vastu means like the thing, like the substance. So it's like you could put it as like the real reality, vastava vastu, like the actual actuality, or the real reality, the true truth, that idea. That is what is given, because there are different layers of reality, there are different conceptions of reality which all have their place, but this is giving that original fundamental reality, highest reality. Vastava vastu, and Shivadam. Shiva here means auspiciousness, Shivadam, giving all auspiciousness. Tapatrai unmuladam, it is taking up from the root. This tapatrai refers to the 3 miseries of adidaivik, adibautik, adiatmic, right? Miseries coming from within our own selves, miseries coming from the devas, the elements, and miseries coming from others. This is tapatrai.
What is that word? Vastu?
Vastu, it means
The real reality? That's V-A-S-T-U?
Yeah. It means like, it can mean like the thing, or here it's put, vastu is put as substance, and then also as, what's the other way it's put here? Yeah, factual. What is factual? So like this phrase is used, vastava vastu, means like the real reality. There's like this emphasis put here. That is what is being given. Because normally in the previous Vedic texts, Vedavyas is catering to the realities that we want, right? In our misconceived state. But what is the real reality? The vastava vastu. That is being given here. And Shivadam, giving all auspiciousness, which is indicated here to be the highest type of auspiciousness, goodness. Tapatrai unmulanam, this is a very nice phrase. This word mul means root, right? So unmulanam means like uprooting. Tapatrai, the 3-fold miseries. So all the so normally the Vedas, they're giving band-aid solutions, right? To avoid suffering. There are so many band-aid solutions that are given, right? You're not happy, here, have some dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? This will solve your problems, but that's only solving in a temporary sense. It's not getting to the root of what is the real root of suffering. It's not like, I'm suffering because whatever. I'm suffering because I don't have money, or I'm suffering because I don't have a partner, or I'm suffering because I'm not famous, right? Oh, and here's a solution for this and this and this, right? These are all band-aid solutions. But what is the root of all suffering? It is selfishness. It is our forgetfulness of Krishna. So this is being stated here. Tapachai unmulanam, that all suffering of this world, it is being taken up by the root. The real solution is being given here. To turn, Krishnan mukh. Now we are bahir mukh, we've turned our face away. Now we must become Krishnan mukh, turn our face towards Krishna. That is the real solution. So tapachai unmulanam. Number 2. Easy to remember. Oh no, it's verse 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, but in the Adi Lila it's being quoted. We're in it's verse 91 of Adi Lila, chapter 1, but it's the second. So it's quite an important verse for us to remember. The first 3 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, they've been described as delineating Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. So this verse is describing Abhideya. How will we make our approach? That is being described here. Rejecting Kaitava Dharma, rejecting cheating religion, cheating approach to the Lord, nirmatsar, to be non-envious, to be free of envy. And to hear this message in this shushubis, in this mood of submissive service. And then it's interesting also that, yesterday we were drawing a parallel between this and the other Jnane Prayasham verse, and another parallel in the sense there's this emphasis put on hearing with a mood of cultivation, not just passive hearing. But then another parallel here is they both conclude with this expression, this statement that if you can do this, then you will capture the Lord. The finite will capture the infinite. So in the other verse, Jnane Prayasham verse, it's ajita jito. Ajita means unconquerable. So this is one name of Krishna, Ajita Krishna. And then Jita means conquered. So there's another name for Krishna, the sweeter name for Krishna. We have a devotee in Australia who has that name. Jita Krishna means he's been conquered by his devotee, Jita. So in that verse and other verses concludes like that. Jita jitopi asitais trilokyam. That who is unconquerable, who is the master of all the worlds, he will become Jita. He will become conquered by this surrender, by such a surrendered soul. He will be captured. So this is the same idea as put here, but in different language. Those willing to hear the message of the scripture in a submissive attitude of service can at once capture the Supreme Lord, avarujyate. He will be captured in their hearts. I was thinking about this yesterday, like how this is the real program. Like, how can we capture the Lord? This is like higher level, right? After you've got the part of surrender and service. And I was thinking, that expression Swami Maharaj liked, hunting for a rhinoceros, right? If you're going to go hunting, hunt for a rhinoceros, right? So it's like if you want to capture someone's heart, try and capture Krishna's heart. This is the program. This is the real program. Like capturing the Supreme. Like how can we capture him within how can we have him in the palm of our hands? Because this is mentioned in a few places. No, I'm joking. But that is the truth, actually. For these exalted devotees, he has no independence. This is his expression. I have no independence. I'm bound, by the love of my devotees. So this is that second verse. I'm glad. I really glad we could go through this, and it just came here to us. So Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, they are appearing in this world with this brilliant effulgence, and they are dispelling this cheating tendency, these cheating tendencies. Dharmaja moksha vancha kaitava pradan jaha hoite Krishna bhakti hoy antardan. Now we're getting more radical here. So already Kaviraj Goswami is going to be like irking some people because he's described dharma, artha, kama, moksha as cheating, and now he's going to really irritate more, because he says the worst kind of cheating is moksha vancha. Now it's like, whoa, like, okay, if you say dharma, artha, kama, if you say that's cheating, yeah, maybe we can go along with that. But moksha, the desire for moksha, is also a kind of cheating. This is the most, revered aspiration, right? The desire to become liberated, the desire to renounce all the trivial enjoyment of this world. Moksha vancha. Right here, actually, this is kind of interesting because the word vancha, well, depending on it's a different spelling. Because vancha can also mean cheating, but it's a different diacritic. There's also desire. Here it's desire. So this is super radical, and Jason really liked this, and I mentioned that when we were in Chico, like, this is headline news, and he said, like, I had never really thought about that, but when you put it like that, it really made me realize, like, this is major news in the religious world and the discourse of religion, to say that we're rejecting the aspiration for liberation. Like, nobody says that. That's considered to be the most, the highest aspiration. The most...
Well, that's the biggest concern, and the liberation to them means to go to heaven, right?
Yeah, but we're also rejecting that.
Yeah, of course, but that's very honorable, that if you can go to heaven.
Exactly, yeah. But like when we say moksha, we're not only talking about impersonal liberation, but even the desire, I want to go to Vaikuntha, I want to go to Vrindavan. That is not Mahaprabhu's program. Of course, ultimately our gurus will take us there. But what is the qualification to go there? That you don't have the desire to go there. Let me have service for you. Let me have love for you. This is prema. Mahaprabhu made this very clear. Let me only have unmotivated, causeless love for you. So like Srila Sridhar Maharaj made that comment, welcome, no entrance. That's how rare this is, how difficult this is. That so the foremost process of cheating is to desire to achieve liberation by merging in the Supreme, for this causes the permanent disappearance of loving service to Krishna. Prashabdena moksha wrong meter. Prashabdena moksha bisandir api nirasta iti. The prefix pra in that verse indicates that desire for liberation is completely rejected. So this word pra, actually, I was mentioning this, like prashanti, remember this prefix pra? It's this intensifier. So here it's Kaviraj Goswami is pointing out in this verse from Bhagavatam, Dharma projita, pra-ujita. Ujita means like throwing away, rejecting. So pra-ujita, like completely, fully, far away. Srila Sridhar Maharshi, oh no, that was, it's a similar, that's another verse. Maybe it was this one. But there's a similar word where Srila Sridhar Maharshi broke it up. Hatefully throw it far away.
Liberation, the idea of liberation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that the verse was referring to, no, maybe. It may have been, in a broader sense, any type of separate interest. I can't remember exactly which phrase it was. It may have been moksha, but it may have been more general. I have to check. So it's being completely rejected. Krishna Bhaktir Badak Jata Shubha Shubha Karma Seho Eka Jiva Agyanta Dharma. All kinds of activities, both auspicious and inauspicious, that are detrimental to the discharge of transcendental loving service to Lord Shri Krishna, are actions of the darkness of ignorance. Wow. So again, super radical. Wow, man. All kinds of activities, both auspicious and inauspicious, whether they're good or bad, if they're not in Krishna's interest, it's all part of the darkness of ignorance. What is that line? Tat padat vena nirmalam. Nirmal, or vimal, we could always say bimal, like bimala. Without means purity, right? Without any spot, without any impurity, without any blemish. So tat parat vena nirmalam, this line Srila Sridhar Maharshi appreciates very much. That what is to be near, what is to be considered nirmal, spotless, pure, is relative to its interest for the Supreme, for Krishna, for the Lord. It is pure to that degree, And so the highest example of that is the Braja Gopis, right? That ostensibly they're transgressing Vedic stipulations, regulations in their, leaving their husbands to serve Krishna. But actually it is the highest kind of purity, because they are serving the center, the absolute. So what is in Krishna's interest, what is for Krishna's service, for Krishna's pleasure, that is pure. However it may appear from a limited perspective of mundane morality, right? So this is a very, it's a tricky point, and it's a point which can also be abused, right? It can also be, for the insincere, this point can be abused. So it is something to be carefully understood. And then more challenging, of course, is, apichet, that verse, of that point, apichet sarachara bhajate mama nanya bhak sadhur eva samantavya samyagravasito. He said that if someone has some inclination to that central current, that true purity, then we should overlook what material impurity they have. And that is more challenging.
It seems like Krishna's doing, he's intentionally always making I don't know if paradox is the right word, but he's always intentionally giving something that's very difficult, especially in the moral sense, like Arjuna. He's having to kill. The gopis are breaking the rules. Arjuna not breaking the rules, but he's doing his duty, but he's doing something that most people seem objectionable.
Right.
So there's a big leap of faith. And since you mentioned Pichet Charitamrta also, that, you know, to what degree are we utilizing, trying to understand that verse of Pichet Charitamrta, meaning, you know, a higher devotee, somehow there's some discrepancy in whatever, then, well, he's a higher devotee. But what about, you know, a beginner devotee? You know, a beginner devotee is, a neophyte devotee is doing their best to also follow and put their faith in Krishna consciousness. But they have a lot more, I have a lot more difficulty in behaving, actually. So, how do you desire, you know, like we're saying, not to desire liberation? Well, the beginning of liberation is to be able to behave. But you have to correct yourself. You know, otherwise it's not dignified, especially if you're representing your guru. You know, we're out, say, preaching like we're doing, and then people expect, you know, like the renounced order, especially, Prabhupada used to say the sannyasis and the acharya has to be on suspicion. So therefore, so at what point does this come into play, especially the verse of Pichet Charitamrta?
Well, first of all, that verse is not a license to do whatever you want.
Yeah,
So it's not
I'm not saying that at all.
it's not an excuse for people to say, well, I don't have to,
No.
you know, follow
Of
things
course,
properly.
I
That's
think
not
that
the
should be
idea.
understood between me and you right now, at least for the point I'm making is that, because in that verse, you're not saying someone should take advantage of it, they're saying for the person to see the other person.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know.
And remember also, you know, you're mentioning sannyasis. Not everybody is appropriate for that, right? So if somebody can't follow properly, they may be a higher devotee, but they won't be considered appropriate for that position, right? Because someone who takes that role, you know, they have to be able to maintain some standard, right? So it wouldn't be appropriate for someone in a position of a sannyasi who can't maintain some regulations to hold that position, right? You know, we are honoring certain things like
But
this.
even if someone's not a sannyasi, if you don't maintain some standard, then you're not getting anywhere either spiritually. We're not surrendering.
But who are we to say that?
I'm saying it about myself. I can say that about myself, can't I?
We're allowed to say it about ourselves, but we're not allowed to say it for others.
I mean,
course.
you're mixing things up here, because as you pointed out yourself, that the point of that verse is how we will see others.
Yes.
Right? So let's talk about this in a systematic way. The verse is saying Sadur eva samantavya, like how you will consider. Mantavya is referring to the mind. Sadur, you will consider them to be a sadhu. If they are ananyavak. No. But this verse, it is true that it can, as I've understood, it can be understood and applied in different ways, right? Because the way that Srila Sridhar Maharaj explains it in his purport in Bhagavad Gita is actually different. What he's saying there, he gives like a higher level interpretation of that verse. That you think they're doing wrong, but actually they're not. You know, you are imposing your limited vision upon the external behavior characteristics of a Vaishnava. You don't know that everything's taking place on a pure platform. So he gives the example there of a servant may, in order to protect, say there's some thief, there's some danger to the king, then a servant may enter the private chambers of the king to help him, right? To protect him. So ostensibly you say, oh, he's breaking the rules, right? Generally the servants, they're not allowed to enter into this private chamber, right? But because of the circumstances, he did it in service to the king. So there's no fault there, actually. That's the example Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives.
Right.
And then we can also take, again, the example of the Braja Gopis, right? That apparently they're transgressing, principles of proper behavior, morality, but actually they're serving the absolute truth. They are serving the highest truth. So there's no wrong there, actually. So that is one way of understanding that verse. But then we've also heard our gurus discuss it in more of a, in connection with struggling practitioners also,
I mean, I'm bringing that up because if we're always saying we're not on that level, we're not on that level, so then what's the discussion for all of us who aren't on that level? It seems like, that takes many, many years of practicing Krishna consciousness. I can only speak for myself to try to appreciate that verse, to try to appreciate that we're not seeing the fault of others. So at some stage when we're only seeing the good, that's why recently I kept saying, only because it struck me that it seems easier to, instead of worrying about, the faults of others, just start looking at the good qualities of others. Because that's what Govinda Maharaj said. If you look at the good qualities of others, then that will come to you. Mm-hmm. He's saying that for himself. So that seems like the practice. I mean, both things are there, but it seems easier to meditate on the positive than the negative. Because the negative comes into the mind automatically, it seems like. It's easy to find fault for some reason. Why, because of what? Because of envy. What else could it be? Like that, there's a prayer, we have the prayer where, I think the Martyr Divan, I think that's one of the, where he's saying, I like to see others suffer when somebody else isn't, suffering, I'm happy, and then, like that's and he's given the mentality of that, it's all interconnected. So to sing those prayers, that's the easy way to imbibe that, instead of just like, trying to like, I don't want to find fault, like in some artificial way, maybe, I don't know. It seems easier to just sing a song every day than to, hold your tongue or something. Does that make any sense? I mean, I'd rather sing songs and dance than, try to be straight.
I mean, the main idea here, is Ananya Bhak, right?
Uh-huh.
Ananya Bhak means Ananya Bhakta, the exclusive devotee.
Uh-huh.
So who is the exclusive, who has some tendency towards the Nirguna plane, who has some connection with the Nirguna plane, who has real attachment, who is really in connect, who's not just, one who is not just associating with Krishna consciousness on a cultural level or on a physical level, on a social level, on a mental level, not those persons, but the person who actually has connection to the real current of divine service.
Yeah.
That person,
that's the most dangerous.
Hey, let me finish. Let me finish here. That kind of person, they are on the path of devotion, they're on their way. If we see some material fault within them, then we must overlook it. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe some purging is coming out, some karma is being burned, we don't know. But we will try to appreciate that the purity of that inner, heart and surrender, and understand they are in Krishna's care. Krishna will take care of them. It's not our business. But then the difficulty comes, right? Because how can we be sure who is Ananya Bhak and who is not Ananya Bhak? That is the difficulty. We don't know. We don't have the eyes to see. Only our Guru knows, the Lord knows. So then we have to be, then as Gurudev would say, we don't know who is a sadhu, right? So then these principles, again, of Trinadopi Sunichena, humility, tolerance, respect, they become so important. We will reserve judgment, right? We will reserve judgment. We will, what's that expression? We will give the benefit of the doubt, right? We will give the benefit of the doubt. Because we cannot be sure. We cannot be sure. So we will be careful. We may have some idea, right, as our discernment develops, and we may have some ability to recognize, oh, this person's in touch with the real thing. This person's a soldier in training. This person is a soldier who's going through the motions, and this is a soldier who's actually on the field and fighting the real fight. This is a soldier who's actually in a living fight, right? And this is someone who's just kind of like going through the motions. They're not really in touch with the real current. Then as our discernment develops, we may be able to recognize that, and we may adjust ourselves accordingly. But we will always be cautious, because we are not self-realized souls. We're not paramahamsas, But some idea may come by the grace of Guru. What do you think, Guru? Should we close there? Any last words from anyone? Didi, do you want to sing?
But I think sorry to interrupt you, but if just to say something after the class or something, I really have nothing to say. But during the class, then I think of something to express. So please forgive me for interrupting your train of thought. But I also have a train of thought sitting here listening, and I was trying to express that.
Yeah, but we are exchanging, and you're bringing up a point, and it's just nice if we leave space to finish our sentence, that's all.
But I can't tell, I'm not so good at that, Sometimes, I'm getting to know you, so now I know. Anyway, so, yeah, I can understand that. I've experience with people. I talk a lot to people, and you have to let them talk and wait, especially with new people. You have to let them express themselves, and then they're easier to preach to, so to speak, appeal to. Like Evan, you have to let him go a little bit. Or Roger, you have to let them express themselves, right?
Yeah, of course,
Otherwise
yeah.
You can't relate to them. You can't understand them. And they won't understand you, they won't trust you. So,
How do I end this here?
I mean,